as I was saying, we can roll from Caulfield into the biggest night of harness racing, the AG Hunter Cup meeting. And the good news is it is all live and free on racing.com, and Ryan Phelan will be centre stage. How are you, Ryan?
Well, Michael Felgate, I hope that you and Mick Sharkey and David Gately et al. Are just going to tip thousands of winners throughout Saturday. So everyone's going to get the quaddie. They're going to fill up and they're just going to sit back in their lounge chairs and say, you know what, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue watching racing.com and back some winners in the harness racing.
Well, the good news is that there's a lot of confidence in the card at Caulfield, and we could have one of these extravagant multis, multi-coal code multis, where there's a few good things at Caulfield, and there's a few shorties which should just win at Melton as well.
Oh yeah, I reckon I could throw a couple in there from Melton. Leap to Fame, obviously, the headline horse. He will be the favourite in the Hunter Cup, and it looks like his race to lose. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. Obviously, Just Believe, who has captured everyone's attention worldwide, he will step out in the second heat of the Great Southern Star. Mind you, I think that race is a bit of a banana skin, so he's probably one I wouldn't be throwing in the multi. But yeah, definitely some good racing throughout the night, Michael.
You're going to have a lot of racing fans who will tune in who maybe aren't huge harness aficionados, but just paint the picture about how big tomorrow night is, and to see those two stars in action on the one night.
Yeah, so the AG Hunter Cup is one of our most time-honoured races. It's been going since, 1949. It's its 75th year this year, so a Diamond Jubilee of the AG Hunter Cup. You think of some of those great names of harness racing from the 80s, Pure Steel, Gamelite, Popular Arm, they're the horses that have won it. In recent times, champions like Black's a Fake, Lazarus is another one that comes to mind. So it is a great horses race. It is the heavyweight championship of harness racing, and definitely the biggest and richest race here for pacers in Victoria. So it's a great race. What makes it even better this year, Michael, is for the first time the Great Southern Star, which is, I think, the greatest trotting race in the Southern Hemisphere. I'll rephrase that, the greatest trotting series in the Southern Hemisphere now joins the Hunter Cup on the same card. Yes, it's happened before, but that's when the Great Southern Star was just a one-out race. Now this is a heats into final in the one-night series. It's quite incredible. So if you're watching racing.com tomorrow night, yes, you've got your bona fide superstar great race of decades upon decades, the AG Hunter Cup, but then you've got this series where you're going to see the best of trotters, the square gators, which is a different gate, but there's going to be a real education about it in between as well, because so much about it is, well, you win your heat, yes, so the first three of the two heats get through to the final, and then the next fastest four horses on overall times go through to the final. But it's not just about the heats into the final, it's about what you do in between.
Yeah.
So you're learning about the horsemanship, how these great trainers prepare these horses, what they do in between. And this is the fascinating thing. Some give them a feed. Some limit how much water they give them. Some take their shoes off. They're constantly walking them around. So there's this whole element of theatre about the Great Southern Star that happens in the hour and a half to 2 hours that unfolds in between the heats and the final, which is quite fascinating.
I was going to ask you, what is the time between the heats and when the final is run? And is it more advantageous to be in the first heat rather than the second?
Well, it depends. I mean, you would think in terms of a normal athlete, for example, if you go out, and run 5K, you might think, okay, well, that's my run done for the day. But then if someone said, oh no, you've got to go out and run another 5K, you'd be like, okay, well, how long do I want to rest for? Because I don't want that lactic acid to settle in too much. I don't want to sort of cramp up. How do I go? Do I keep moving? Do I refuel myself, or do I drink lots of Gatorade? No, I don't want to get a stitch. So you think about all of those sorts of things. So what is the ideal time? We sort of have asked the trainers that over the last couple of years. In America, it's I think for the Little Brown Jug, it's a bit quicker. I think it's about an hour to an hour and a half. The Elite Lot, which this series is based on, which Just Believe went and competed in last year in Sweden, is about 2 hours. This sits at around about an hour and a half, 2 hours, which seems to be, from a participant point of view, the right period of time between the heats into the final. It's I think from a safety point of view, a welfare point of view, and but it's, standardbreds are pretty tough animals, but I think it's a great example of how good our trainers are as well.
So Just Believes in the second Great Southern Star Heat, which is race number 3.
I reckon I'd want to be in the first heat.
Okay.
Would be a slight advantage to answer that question that you asked me before.
And he's the international superstar. He's the world, or the best that we've seen in Australia, and one of the best in the world. But you say that could be a bit of a trick race because he's $1.35, and is that because tactics play a big part in this series as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Jess Tubbs and Grant Sugars won't want to absolutely give him a huge.
Well, it's. I know where you're coming from. It's not. Well, it's not that they want to give him a gutbuster, yes, but are they trying to win the race? 100%.
Yeah.
Because you have to finish in the first 3 to guarantee yourself a spot, and then you hope they go quick enough that you're in the next 4 fastest horses that you can get that right qualifying time.
So what does Greg Sugars do from 9?
Well, the thing is, he's got a horse that can do absolutely anything. He's a superstar. But this is mile racing. So the shortest form of racing, well, other than obviously the Mercury 80, which will be 1,200 metres, but the standardised format, the 1609, the mile racing is the most common short form of racing in harness racing. He is better over 2,100, even better again over 2,600, those sorts of distances. The Elite Lot was a mile, for example. He ran quite well there, so he can do it. But he's drawn awkwardly now, one off the back row, because during the week, another horse that's in that race, which is Macho Maori, it galloped. So it's now an OD runner. So Just Believe now goes to 1 inside the back row. Now, I don't care what race it is or how good you are, that's where I don't want to draw when I'm racing over a mile. Even if the one horse happened to lead the race, you've still got to hope that, you can get to the sprint lane in the right time to get the run. Ideally, I think he'd be a better bet for the final. I think he's, for me, a risk at $1.35 to win the heat. I would not be backing him at that price. In fact, I'd be looking for a little bit of value with number 3 RC Phoenix. When the barrier draw went up earlier in the week, he was $8. He's been crunched in. I think he can lead. His run in the Maori Mile at Bendigo, where he ran a track record time there, was brilliant. If he can find the front, I think he's a great bet at around, $4.20. I was going to say each way. There's no each way odds there now. He's $1.12 the place, but he could cause an upset.
The Hunter Cup, if you want to tune in on .com, is going to be run at 8:45. It is, as you mentioned, the time-honoured Group 1. And we've got another star, Leap to Fame, who is $1.40. Was $1.30 earlier in the week, out to $1.40. And you keen to play at that price?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's his right price, Michael. Let's call it the Larry and Harry show tomorrow night. So their nicknames, Leap to Fame, he's known as Larry, and Just Believe, he's known as Harry. So what a nice ring to it with these two champions racing on the same program, the Larry and Harry show. And Leap to Fame, look, it's his Grand Circuit race to lose. Does he need to lead to justify that $1.40 quote? I think he does, because history would suggest that the times that he's been parked in these big races, he's had his colours lowered. That was the case in the Blacks Are Fake when he first came onto the Grand Circuit scene as a 4-year-old. He was beaten by Swayze on that occasion. Admittedly, he had a flat tyre over the last 300 metres of that race, ran really, really well, but still was beaten into a placing. Same thing happened in the Victoria Cup. He wasn't able to lead there, and he ran third. The Eureka, he had to sit parked over the 2400 outside of Catch a Wave on that occasion. Again, he finished a placing there. So you have that in the back of your mind that if you're going to take $1.40, I want Catch a Wave, who looks the most likely scenario to lead. I want him to wave on by Grant Dixon at some stage and say, look, Leap to Fame, you're the best horse. I don't think I can sit you parked and beat you, so I'm going to wave you on by and hopefully get a nice trail on you and run a placing. So that's the scenario that I'm thinking will happen. But there's a bit of speed. Catch a Wave number 2 comes out well. So bear in mind, number 1 Can't Find a Better Man is the emergency, and if it doesn't get a start, Catch a Wave will start from barrier 1. Typo, number 3, comes out well. So too does number 4, Curly James. So they could all have a bit of a skirmish early to see who's going to get that coveted position, if it is to happen that way, behind Leap to Fame. So there could be a bit going on early. Leap to Fame will probably sum it up, and I'm hoping after about 600 to 800 metres, Grant Dixon will just put the hammer down and they'll wave him onto the front. Then I'm going to be really, really sweet with taking the $1.40.
Okay, so, well, there you go. There's a nice little bit of juice for the multis through Caulfield.
I think he's good for your multis.
Give us any value on the card?
There is, Michael. So the first heat of the Great Southern Star, I'm not going to call him value, but let's also put some more juice into the multi, shall we? I really like a horse by the name of number 2, Don't Call Me the Breeze. Driven by Nathan Jack, trained by Anton Galino. This is a French trotter who is owned by Pat Driscoll and Yabby Dam Farms, who sponsors this series. They've brought this horse out to eventually breed with, but as a racehorse, well, he had one start first up and was absolutely sensational. That was at Ballarat behind Just Believe. He's going to come on from that race. I think he holds all the aces from barrier number 2. I see him shortening up from that quote of $1.70, so I think he's a good one for the multis. As far as value of the night, look, I think it will be a lot of roughies that might get up throughout the night, because a lot of the horses that I've seen as winning chances are actually drawn a little bit awkwardly. So they're going to need a lot of good drives. I think the value might actually be RC Phoenix in race 3 at a currently a $4.20 quote. I mentioned during the week on this program, Michael, $8 I thought was good value about RC Phoenix. So hopefully some people took that. I think he's the value play of the night, but probably the best play might actually be the quaddie. So I think there's a quaddie jackpot tomorrow night, isn't there, on Victorian Tab? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I reckon the quaddie you can play reasonably wide in the first couple of legs and then tight home. So,
well, do you want to give us some numbers? What are the quaddie races?
So the quaddies, and this is important to note too, the quaddie races are races 4 to 7. So normally you'd have 1 to 4 and then 5 to 8, wouldn't you? But because the Great Southern Star is race 8, it can't be a leg of the quaddie because, of course, the field hasn't been decided yet with the 2 heats being run earlier. So the quaddie are races 4 to 7. So in the first leg, I've gone 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. The second leg, 1, 3, 4, 5 and 8. Let's stand out Leap to Fame only, number 6 in the third leg, and then tight home numbers 3, 9 and 10. I think they're Pete Said So's number 10, Tim's a Trooper's number 9, and Better Isolate number 3. And I think $45 for 50%, that might be a nice way to play the quaddie, Michael.
Love it. All right, so we'll put this out on social media. Ryan's quaddie first leg, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 into 1, 3, 4, 5 and 8. 6, 1 out in the AG Hunter Cup.
Michael, there's something else happening tomorrow night too.
What's happening?
Well, it might even be happening tonight. Chris
leg.
Alford.
Last leg, 3, 9, 10. So the punters have got that. Now, he's on the verge. I had a chat to the puppet yesterday. He had 2 wins to go. He didn't get a win last night, did he?
He should have. He was on a horse called Repelling. It was backed off the map. It carried a little bit of mine as well. He didn't have much luck over the last sort of 100 metres. He's got 3 drives tonight. I think 2 at Bendigo are reasonable chances. I don't want to say that I'm pulling on his tail, but I'd love him to have 1 to go in tomorrow night's meeting at Melbourne.
And how many drives has he got tomorrow night?
Oh, he's got a few, actually. I think he's maybe got about half a dozen.
Well, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
And is he on a winning chance tomorrow night?
He's on Queen Elida in the heat of the Great Southern Star, and she's a winning chance.
There would be nothing better for him to bring up his 8,000th winner on the coverage, free-to-air, racing.com on the big night. We're cheering for that. We're cheering for you, the coverage and everything. It's going to be a great night. Tune in tomorrow, straight after the coverage at Caulfield on .com. Have a good night, Ryan.
6:10 straight after the last in South Australia, Michael, and just sit back, relax. We've got a great story with Chris Alford and Damien Oliver on the program tomorrow night as well. So there you go.
Awesome stuff.
A lot to enjoy.
We'll talk to you about it next week. Have a good one.
Thank you.